All right, everyone. Welcome to. Let me move this across. There we are. I'm gonna pause this as well. Welcome to the Q&A stream for Legacy of the Beast. I'm Siege. You guys have met me before. Today we're going to be going through a bunch of stuff, and actually give me just a moment, and I'm going to bring up our list of things. I realize I didn't have it open. List of things that we are going to cover, and the kind of the order that we're going to cover them in. So I have it. Apologies, guys. Right here. All right, perfect. So, everyone knows that. Hopefully, everyone who's been here has kind of had the opportunity to pre-submit a question. We did that so that we have the ability to let you guys all get questions in beforehand, so that you're not all kind of fighting to get questions in and seen in the chat today. So we're going to go over all of those pre-submitted questions. I believe there's 32 or 33 of them. Then we're going to have a discussion on character design. The design team here are going to fill in some blanks for us and kind of help us out with understanding that a little bit more. And then finally, we're going to go through random questions directly from chat. So hang around until after that point. If you didn't get to pre-submit a question, you will get to ask one in chat. Leviathan is keeping an eye, so if you do ask it beforehand, before we get to that random question section, she's putting it in a section for us to come back to if we get the opportunity. And we'll also, that'll be a very strict 10-minute timer on that section, just to make sure that the stream doesn't go forever. And then lastly, just after that, at the very end of the stream, we have some very exciting character reviews for you. We're going to show you X Factor Eddie, and we're going to show you the Headless Horseman, who is very special. Specifically, there's going to be a lot more to come on him very, very soon. All right, so that's it from me so far. I'm going to pass this off to Maku and Durandal for letting them introduce themselves. I believe we're going to start with Maku, and then we'll get started with our pre-submitted questions.
Hey guys, I'm Maku. I'm a senior game designer here at LOTB, and I guess we should talk about our fandom in Iron Maiden, I guess.
Yeah,
I became a huge fan. I became a mega fan of Iron Maiden after watching the Hallowed Be Thy Name clip in YouTube when Bruce performed the song, I think, in front of a Donington audience. But that was an amazing set, and I was like, okay, I'm totally in on this band, and I haven't stopped listening since.
Yep, it's a hot debate. Maku's top 50 definitive list of best Iron Maiden songs of all time. You know, I have some disagreements here and there, but
I have to see this
yeah, we're
list
definitely.
yet.
You haven't seen the list yet? I don't think we've made it public outside of the design team. But yeah, I'm Durandal. I wear many hats. I'm an associate game designer here at Navigator, and I've got a penchant for experiences in games. Just growing up, games really helped me get through a lot by letting me escape into all kinds of interesting and cool stories with fantastic heroes. And that's sort of like what Iron Maiden does so well. They're truly the epitome of storytellers when it comes to music and entertainment. So I think it just fits so well in a game world. As far as like their music, I kind of started listening to like just singles, really is what I got mostly exposed to. Infinite Dreams was probably one of the first that I really listened to. Hallowed Be Thy Name moved me to tears. So I was like, okay, these guys are legit. And of course, like it's really hard to go the speed limit when you're listening to Aces High. When it comes on, I need to change it, or otherwise I'll make poor life decisions. So that's me in a nutshell.
Nice. Thanks very much for that, guys. I forgot to mention my Iron Maiden kind of fandom part. Mine came really early in life for me. I'm from Northern Ireland originally. And my uncle, massive metalhead. My dad, not so much, but his brother, my uncle, took me to a concert whenever I was I think 12. In Dublin, in Shane Castle, and man, like being, and it's like Shane Castle is a proper castle. It's like, all of the crenellated walls, and then they've just kind of put this big stage in the inside of it. I was blown away. Fear of the Dark was the most memorable song from that entire concert. I can't remember the exact tour name, but like being 12 years old and in this huge, big, like spooky stadium, and oh yeah, I've been a fan ever since. So getting the opportunity to work with Navigator and Iron Maiden has been pretty much a dream come true that I didn't dream of at first. So it's been an excellent so far. So guys, now
heavy metal and video games work really well together.
They so do. Oh my god, they always do. So now that we've got through these our introductions, I'm going to go ahead and get started with the questions that have been pre-submitted. Just give me 1 second. I want to make sure that this is starting in the correct place for us. I believe it is. Actually, no, it is not. Let me slide through these real quick. Everyone's going to get a quick preview of what they're going to look like.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
It's like we got our answers down ahead of time just to kind of get that clarity out. But, stop us if we start rambling. We start kind of adding to it a bit too much.
No worries.
Because we want to make sure that we give, some good quality answers back to all this feedback that we got.
Let's see. Hold on. Where did this go? The very first question. I'm looking right at it here on my other monitor, and I do not see it.
It's like it was thrown into a random number generator for all the cards.
It seems to have been. Do we want to just go for it with the random number generator, and we'll just kind of go that way, or do you want me to restart this? I can reinstall the image slideshow pretty quickly, actually. Let me just try that. Really, I think that's maybe our best option.
Maybe give that a shot.
It was we give it a new. I can install that fairly quick.
It's cool to see that we got all kinds of different questions. Like we got questions in regards to like the kind of content that's coming out. We got like, upcoming characters and dungeons and all that kind of stuff. It seems like some people are really interested in us revisiting existing content to expand upon that, which is really cool. Some people want to find out more about how we plan our content and how we design our content, which is really neat. In terms of like areas for improvement in the game and quality of life initiatives, we've heard the feedback loud and clear for specific areas of the game. And then, there are tons of things that we want to do too. So I think getting that perspective from both sides is going to be really helpful. But, to anyone who invested their time in sharing these questions or anyone who just actively shares feedback, like on our forums or on like our social pages, like it really means a lot because, we can only gauge so much via data and metrics alone, that being able to actually hear what people really have to say about specific areas of the game, it helps us sort of navigate the ship, right?
So. Yeah, perfect. Whoever mentioned my mic being low in the chat, thank you very much. I believe I fixed that. I might not be as loud as the gentleman here, but at least I'm back up there. Okay, we are ready to go. Reinstalling the image slideshow worked just fine. So,
sweet.
Nice.
Our first question to get us started off is, will there be new characters in the clan store with the third raid boss? And that's from Warrior Cat.
Right, so we don't have concrete details surrounding everything to do with the third raid boss right now. Are we going to tell them what? Let's just get it out there what the third raid boss is. Can we do that, Kieran?
You know what? I'm going to leave that completely up to you. I'm washing my hands of that conversation.
Well, I think people figured it out, and we won't deny it. We won't deny it, and we won't. What's the term? We won't guarantee
tread in a kiddie pool much longer.
But I think it's a safe assumption that when the third raid boss comes out, there will be a new characters in the clan store, like the Valhalla Maidens. It's just a matter of when. I can't say it's going to be immediately when the third raid boss goes up, but I think it's a safe assumption that there'll be some sort of character like that afterwards.
Yeah, like if you think of the characters that we had, like I'm just thinking back to our first raid boss with Odin. We had the Valhalla Maidens, we had Ragnar, we had tons of characters in that kind of vein of, like, we had Fenrir. If you want to kind of talk about whether characters will be coming out in the same kind of category of or same kind of like historical, mythical kind of set of things, I'm guessing we'll have a bunch of characters over the same kind of period of time as we had for like Odin.
Well, something that I think we'll definitely like to explore. We got a lot of positive feedback regarding like the Valhalla Maidens as sort of like this elite group that sort of supports Odin and like the theme of his content. We haven't been able to find an opportunity to do that for Baphomet just yet, but we think that once we get all 3 raid bosses out, I think we really like the idea of exploring like what the supporting cast would look like for each of the 3 raid bosses. And players have been able to decipher it. Cernunos going for that wild sort of nature theme is going to be really interesting, and I think it'll feel really different from the other 2 raid bosses. And the key thing will be, when we want to explore on these sort of elite allies for each of the raid bosses, what sort of themes or visuals will best suit them. But in terms of the nature of how they'll be released or kind of what they'll look like or what they'll do, none of that is decided yet. So it's just something for us to explore, but it's on our radar. It's a blip.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in that mythology.
Yeah. For sure.
All right. We'll call that question answered. Let's move on to the next one. If I can get my... No, I can't get it to work. Let's do this button instead.
Also, thank you, Warrior Cat.
1 second, guys. It looks like it's doing that. It's randomizing automatically.
You got the shuffle on.
Apparently, I don't. This is what we're gonna have to live with here, fellas.
That's all good. We can just search and find.
Yeah. So, how do you set up a roadmap for a character's effects and abilities? And how fast can your response be to changing? Okay, we'll come to the second part of that question afterwards.
Okay, I think I wrote notes for this one. So this is from Len Maiden. So thank you, Len. So I wrote some notes here. Basically, when we're looking at upcoming sets of characters, we kind of look at them from 3 different perspectives. We actually plan out the groups of characters that are going to be released way in advance. We have like months of different themes and different characters that we want to explore. But when it comes down to actually designing these characters and figuring out what they're going to be doing, we come from different approaches. So one is we look to see if there are opportunities to create counters to popular meta strategies if it makes sense thematically. So for example, let's say we just went through a meta where heavy revive teams were very popular. And we thought that Oni Eddie was a perfect example of sort of fitting the bill of a character who can counter that just based on the theme of his abilities and sort of trapping souls in his mystical sword. So it kind of works there. Where it might not necessarily work, say, for a character who's more like a healer or a supporter, like just visually. It doesn't really tie into that. We also look to see if there's shared themes or strategies that we wish to introduce based on the theme of the content that's coming out. So you saw this with like the Mongolian characters and how all the Mongolian characters had sort of this shared physical damage trait, this sort of like execution element in their cosmic talisman, as well as sort of the dodge mechanic that they all have. They all have a different variant on the sort of chance to avoid damage and then do this punishing thing. So sometimes it's not so much about a specific counter, but rather just a shared theme. And then also sometimes we look at characters on like an individual basis to see if they can provide a new and unique experience. A good example of this would be like Vesper, woman in uniform, who when you look at her kit, she's very, very tanky. Unless you're able to put a time bomb on her, she has a chance to put a time bomb on herself, but then also the enemy. So it's just kind of this interesting, different experience that doesn't really fit into any other pool of characters. And sometimes we think that's healthy for the game too, because each new character that comes out shouldn't always have to be the next best character. As long as the character is very much playable and is fun and interesting to check out, I think that's really the most important thing. And then in terms of strategy and in terms of what becomes meta, that's a part of the conversation that a lot of players will have too, tinkering around and finding out which combination of characters and talismans are the best. So, yeah.
Sorry, gentlemen. I believe I fixed the questions thing. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come back to the second half of Len's question when it comes up. Because it is kind of separate. So let's just to make it easier, because I set the guys up with a document telling them these are the order of the questions, just so that they're prepared. So I want to make it as straightforward for them as possible. So thank you very much for your patience. Cool. So I fixed it. Next question is, did you purposefully make the challenges for the Living Nightmares event that hard at first to create paranoia for the new paranoia talisman? And that's from the first GC.
GC. You legitimately made me laugh when I first read this, because I feel so bad. It's a very humorous sentiment. But I think that with that particular event, with the hard mode for the Infernal Dungeon, we definitely missed the mark a bit, and we learned a lot from that experience. What was interesting is that we really wanted to explore what high-end, extreme, difficult content might look like in like a PvE setting, because we think that's one area that that's sort of an open opportunity, and it's healthy for very challenging pieces of content to exist. But I think the area where we needed to be of broader consideration is having exclusive event rewards, exclusive limited time event rewards tied to extreme difficulty content. We heard the feedback, and it just didn't really fly for the broad spectrum of our players. So I think that we'll still want to continue experimenting with very challenging and difficult content, because it helps start up conversations, right? So when you're always able to just throw in any team and then just clear any content, it's just a matter of like how fast you can clear it. It kind of becomes stale over time. I think that occasionally having content that makes you sort of sit up in your chair and you're like, okay, wait a second, I just lost. Like, what happened here? I need to actually, take a look at what I'm fighting against. I think that generates conversation, and people start to share strategies and figure out as a group, as a collective, how to solve that puzzle. But I think we're going to have to just carefully balance sort of how to make that feel rewarding for those who are capable of accomplishing such challenges, while also making sure that there is a balanced spectrum of content for whether or not you're like just getting started with the game, whether you're sort of at that midpoint, if you're like a late stage player, but you're not necessarily like extreme late stage. I think balancing all that will be important. So yeah, I hope that gives a good perspective on that stuff. But no, it wasn't intentional. It wasn't like we're going to make people paranoid.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. All right, next question. Moving on. Thank you for that first GC. Will there be new Brave World dungeons to go with their colors other than the 3 we have? It'd be great to match them up with the Lord of Light. And that's from Warlord.
Well, that's a very good question, Warlord. I had some notes about this too. I think that we definitely want to revisit Brave New World. When we release like major content pieces to the game, we don't really see it as this sort of like one and done. Okay, the content's done, let's move on to the next thing. We monitor feedback and usage of all the different features of the game, and then determine if there are things that we can do to improve it. I think that where Lord of Light is sort of like the de facto place of going to level up your characters and getting like awakening materials in the Frontier Dungeon, I think that there is room to sort of expand on what Brave New World represents as sort of the place for upgrading your talismans. I think that, there are different ways we want to sort of explore it. We don't have any concrete details on it now, but it definitely is on our radar of something that we'd like to do. I think that We hear the feedback of players that want more deliberate and strategic choice in how they farm for their materials. So, like, for example, having a world, one of the sections of Brave New World offer 2 different types of materials at a random chance. We're hearing that you would rather, of course, have the ability to have a targeted thing that you want to work towards, and then you can specifically work towards that thing. So if you need warrior runes, you can specifically target warrior runes and then go for those, just as you would with gunner runes or sentinel runes or so on. So it's definitely an area we would like to explore. It's just a matter of finding the right time to execute on it at a high level of quality. Because there's a lot of crazy, crazy cool stuff coming out very, very soon. And that has been our highest priority right now. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Thank you, Warlord. Okay, so the next question. There were dungeons used from events that are now gone. Will they be coming back permanently in the future? Also, can we have a keyring for all our frontier keys so they stop taking up space in the Book of Souls? Now, this question came from many people. I was able to grab names from Amy, Tammy, and Craig.
Cool, yeah. I mean, we're definitely working towards bringing back all the awesome dungeons and putting them out there. I think you can expect to see a lot of them pop up in the next year, 2021. And as for the keyring stuff, I mean, it's something we'd love to do, but we currently have no new information about that sort of stuff.
Yeah, just to expand on that a little bit too. Even if we don't necessarily have the keyring itself on our roadmap right away, we are specifically looking at solutions for players that are sitting on a collection of keys, especially for anyone who has sort of had their fill of a particular dungeon and they're still earning key souls for certain rewards. We're currently in the process of having discussions and exploring ways that we can have you feel like you're able to get a return on your investment for having these stacks of keys in your inventory. So this really only caters to like sort of the late stage players that have like fully completed a lot of this content, who don't have a everyday use for these key souls. But those conversations are underway. So
excellent. Next question. Are there any plans to make all the eddies look more like the last eddies that you have released? So the most recent eddies. The most recent ones have more polished faces, similar to the Maiden covers, like album covers.
Yeah, I mean, I actually love how the older eddies look, as much as the current ones, I would say. But I mean, granted, my favorite Eddie is probably the X Factor Eddie, because it just looks so damn good. But I mean, we're always retuning and retinkering old kits for these Eddies in our tuning updates. With definitely more to come in 2021. We do a lot of special editions for those existing Eddies, and I think that's sort of a way to bring like new life into those Eddie looks as well. So yeah.
Apologies for that. Died 31. That was from you. Thank you very much for that question. And moving on. All right. What do you estimate this game's lifespan to look like? More precisely, when should we expect the story of this game to be complete? And that's from Grimdusk.
Well, I don't think Eddie's story will ever end, just like Iron Maiden's music on repeat. I think we're just really excited about the upcoming story content release that we're working very hard to bring to you guys very soon. So, I mean, I don't see any span of life currently for LOTV. Do you, Durandal? I can't say Durandal.
I hope the story never ends. I'd rather just, fit in as many worlds as possible, because you think that, okay, at some point you're going to run out and you're going to like have covered every single album, every single environment. I don't really think that's possible for Iron Maiden, at least, just because they have so many different worlds and different pockets of lore to explore. But I mean, we'll just as long as we have this this ongoing support from you guys, and you just keep playing the game, and whether or not you choose to be you choose to like support us by purchasing an in-game pack, or if you just simply play with your friends, just by simply playing the game, you're supporting us and you're keeping the community alive. And it really it helps us sort of propel forward and gives us opportunities to add new characters to the game, new dungeons, new story content, and even opportunities to go back to older content too, and bring a little bit of new life to older characters. So it's very much appreciated, and we definitely want to do it as long as possible.
Perfect. Thanks for that. All right, next one. When will the third raid boss be released? That came. The first one I saw was from Sinsin, but then there were many, many more people asking this question.
Well, I can say that Avalon is our number one priority right now. So as soon as we ship that content out to you guys, you could probably expect the third raid boss to be soon after that. But no hard dates.
I think like originally we kind of had in our heads that we'd be looking potentially around the beginning of the new year, but pretty much once we got the go ahead that Avalon could be like prioritized for the early new year, it was like, all right, put everything aside. We're finally getting Isle of Avalon out. This is like number one for us. So yeah, so it does mean that you'll see raid boss a little bit later on, but I think that it's in lieu of something that's going to be pretty fantastic. So
awesome.
Yeah,
I hope everyone's going to be really excited about that. Oh, Brickster, can you tease one thing about Avalon? Now I'm allowing him to put this question in now just because it's kind of, it's on topic. Stick around. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's gonna be sweet.
All right, so next question. Can the dev and design team add a tool on the Book of Souls to sell unwanted characters / talismans when we open souls? This could be very useful. And this is from Abyssal Tail Gunner.
Man, Abyssal Tail Gunner sounds like it could be a really cool special edition for
it does,
Tail Gunner Eddie.
Yeah.
Anyways, basically, like the key thing here is that it should be good to know for the community broadly is that we actually have a huge list of quality of life changes that we'd like to do to the game. So this is definitely on it. But really part of the challenge is just prioritizing, which of these improvements sort of needs to take the top spot. Sometimes we organize our list based on just how big of a change it is, because if it is sort of like, oh, that would be kind of nice, but it actually requires like a ton of work and investment, it'll probably be pushed off to the side in lieu of something that can be executed faster and more efficiently, especially if it has a bigger impact. So I think that going into 2021, we're going to really try and review how we can improve the general quality of life of like the everyday adventure of playing the game, whether it's managing your inventory or having like things that are worthwhile to work towards or things that are worthwhile to spend your resources on. I think we're going to be really kind of reviewing all that. And that's the key piece of information there, is that like ideas like this are fantastic. I would love to be able to do all kinds of things. Like, one that was on the list was like automatically selling like 3-star characters if you didn't need them, that kind of thing, the moment you pull them, that kind of stuff. So in terms of what actually ends up in the game, it just depends on what we can review and what works best in line with all the other stuff that we want to do too. So.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you, Abyssal Tail Gunner. All right, here's a slightly longer one. We've got a couple questions inside this one question. So what programs do you use to create and animate characters? I don't know if that's a question for you guys. That's maybe for the art team.
So I asked the art team, because obviously we don't do the art stuff. And they replied with, they use Maya as a program to create and animate characters for our game.
Cool. And Maya is one of those big 3D programs. I remember dabbling in that back in university. But
it's pretty industry standard, I think. It's taught in every single animation school, I think, as well.
Yeah. Then the next question, I guess, which was kind of like still for the art team, would be what problems do you have when transferring a character to the game? If you don't have an answer for this, Maku, I kind of already do. Um, Things like Maya and the game engine that we use, Unity, have plugins that allow you to transfer all sorts of animation rigs and characters into games. So it's fairly straightforward, from my understanding.
Yeah, I mean, that's also a very art, I think, centric question. So can't really speak too much in depth about that stuff.
And then the last couple of parts of this question are: which members of Iron Maiden are involved in the development, and will we see Adrian Smith Eddie?
Yeah, so we do work with the Iron Maiden team very closely on every single approval and idea that we have and propose to them, and they have their own ideas that they propose to us. So it's a very, consistently two-way street of communication that we do with them. And in terms of the last part of that question, we are actually in active plans for a next band member to grace LOTB in the near future. And yeah, that's all I can say about that.
I like some things we can tease, and some things are like, you'll just have to wait and see.
But it will be super hype, and I think it would be an amazing Eddie to have in our game for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that'll be exciting for sure. One thing about the members of Iron Maiden, I'm guessing if you're asking specifically about the band members that have are involved in the development, Durandal and I in September 2019 had the opportunity to meet the band. They came into the studio, they talked with everyone on the team. They wanted to know what everyone was doing, so they're really interested in the development of the game. And Bruce himself spent most of a day speaking with one of our art leads and with the design team at that time, and was like instrumental in making Scream for Me Eddie. Like, that wasn't just like we got some stuff and based him, on Bruce and so on. Bruce was, there was even, what the action, remember he was talking about his fencing?
Yeah, I forgot the name of the actual move, but he was using his experience fencing to like help us figure out like the animations for his attack and stuff.
There's actually
moves based on the actual like practice itself, which is pretty cool.
I think it's in the YouTube video that we have for him being in the studio, but there's video footage I remember seeing of him, doing the action in the studio, and I remember the art team just going like, we're using that, like, and they just translated that as best they could into the animation. So I remember that. So they are very much involved.
I still haven't washed my hands. I have all the microbes of the band members on my hands still.
That's relevant for the pandemic as well, I think.
Yeah, very relevant.
But yeah, and Adrian Smith Eddie would be awesome as well, I think, in our game. I mean, tying with his, he released a new book this year on fishing. Oh, yeah. So, a fisherman Eddie would probably be pretty awesome.
Yeah, dude, I was thinking about like an angler Eddie that has like, his guitar, so he has like guitar moves, but then he can also like fish out like a giant shark or something that attacks enemies. This is the kind of crazy
a giant bass that comes out and just swallows other enemies.
Can you imagine a fish with Eddie's face, similar to like Storm Eddie, like in the sky? That'd be pretty wild.
So there you go, chat. There's an insight into the conversations that go on in the design team, and how this is lore. This is
Oh no! Everything goes through approval. So like Iron Maiden, they don't let us get too wild. They make sure that whatever we put out is authentic to their brand and their vision. So
there you go. All right, let's move on to the next question. So how do you set up a roadmap for a character's effects and abilities? We answered that.
Yeah, so this is the one we did, yeah.
We did, perfect. Yep. Len, thank you for that question. And the second part to that is, how fast can your response be to change the way the game is developing? And I think, Durandal, you actually already spoke on this a little bit about with the metas.
I mean, just to add to it a little bit, we're when we see characters go out and we see like popular teams starting to form, we're hesitant to make any changes too quickly, because sometimes it does take a couple of weeks for people to be sort of exposed to a new strategy and then sort of build around it. And then once we kind of gauge over, say, the course of like a month or 2 months, if anything seems like way out of line in terms of like win rate or like the average rank that the player is in, usually our first response will be, okay, why is this performing so well? Is it just because in itself it's too strong, or is it because there's not enough strategic things that can counter it? So usually our first goal is to sort of introduce a few different counters, and you've seen this in like some of the cosmic talismans that can be shared across different characters. You've seen it in specific character passives, just characters that come out and you're like, oh, this guy really has the thing that I actually need right now to deal with this other thing. So once more of those sort of puzzle pieces come into play, because we can only release so many characters at any given time. So after a few different releases and some characters and different tools are out, if it's still an issue and people are still running into the same problem, and the meta has become stale because people are seeing the exact same team over and over again, we try to shake things up a little bit. And you see this in the tuning notes too. We're not afraid to make adjustments to make sure that a character is fair, but we also want to make sure we can honor the sort of promised experience that a character can provide. So if you're getting a character and the character is sort of like, this guy is the best guy to handle people who rely on accuracy effects, we're going to make sure that that guy does that well beyond all else, and that he continues to do that thing well in case if you ever need to rely on. So
the other thing to think about is like we work like months ahead of the release constantly with the content. So like we consistently look at the data and look at what the meta looks like, and try to create pivots and stuff as things go by. But it does, we can't just do immediate like next day changes, because there's approval processes and all that stuff with the App Store and the Google Play Store as well. So like even though we do want to change it super fast, sometimes just the way production happens, like it's sort of like turning one of those huge boats, and it's gonna take a while to go towards there. But we're constantly thinking about these things and planning things out for like the next few releases and stuff like that.
Perfect.
I think it's like somewhat unrelated, but Vinny Reed writes for the tuning notes, please add more puns to the explanations. I'm glad that you guys have liked the tuning notes recently, how we've added sort of like the context pieces to them. People might not always realize, but oftentimes the little header for the context is actually like a movie reference or something like that. And just as like a fun tidbit of information, there's actually a lot of Easter eggs in the game that no one ever uncovers. Like for example, I think Vesper, Woman in Uniform, I think it's her HP value or her attack value is like the year that the Casino Royale book came out. Like just random little tidbits of information like that. So whenever you see a new character, you never know if there's an Easter egg involved with them. I'll just say that.
Oh man, I didn't know that about Vesper. That's interesting. All right, let's move on to the next one. Also from Len. Why do you keep pushing invisible innate effects like innate passive disable from GOTN? That's
Goes to the Navigator.
Yeah, goes to the Navigator. As I'm reading it, I'm like, I need to.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Okay. Overall, it's really hard to play with invisible effects, and that's from Len.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely shying further away from invisible innate effects. I think GOTN was sort of like the last one we were thinking of doing. We tried to use visual effects when an icon isn't present for status effects. We're actually, funny enough, releasing new status effects and icons very soon. TM. We have also, like, if you pay attention to our lengthy tuning notes, each update, in the past few releases, we started consolidating redundant effects to make room for new ones. And so we're pretty excited. Like there'll be a new icon and a new status effect, I think, for Christmas around there. And then, 2021 is wide open for that sort of stuff.
Yeah, we basically curated we basically sat down one day and looked at the entirety of all the different effects that are in the game. And then we just sort of like picked out ones that were only on maybe like one or two niche characters that were never used, or effects that were never really relied upon, or you couldn't really build a strong strategy around certain effects. We're like, okay, this effect is taking the spot of something else that could be, more interesting or more valuable to a player. So we hope that you've appreciated us sort of going back and then just sort of streamlining some of the effects for certain characters, so that instead of having 14 different reflect shields, maybe there's only 7, but each of the 7 have a specific purpose. That kind of thing.
Perfect. All right, next question. This one came from No Names, or No Name. It said, what's the idea behind the talisman's effects only, I believe I missed a word here, only lasting, or only effective during until death? I added too many words or missed the wrong word, but I think we answered this. We know what I meant. It's like, it looks like you're rewarding the resurrection of toons instead of punishing dead ones.
Yeah, so this is purely because of how the combat engine was created, from the foundation of the game. I think it's a matter of like communication to the player, and I think we're trying to improve it, as each update goes out, and it's just going to be an ongoing process of like getting that sort of part of the combat, like tight and tuned to where we want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, you probably have noticed, like over the course of the last year, especially, that certain skill descriptions for like new characters, that they're getting a bit wordier, but they're also getting more explicitly detailed. So things like an effect that goes onto a character until they die, that kind of stuff has been in the game for a very, very long time. But it's really only recently that we've been starting to call out when, where, and how certain effects get applied in great detail. So that way it's, the trade-off is that there's more to read when you look at the ability, but you can actually plan around these effects a bit better. So like, for example, a good character to kind of highlight this on was before we updated him, the Gunner Hierophant, his passive stated that like prevents enemies from healing, right? So what that character is doing is that at the start of his turn, he's putting this sort of innate permadeath on all his enemies. The issue is that if a character is killed, and let's say they have like immunity to the innate permadeath and they come back, but then let's say the immunity is gone, that Gunner Hierophant won't be able to actually apply his passive effect to that character until his next turn. So that's why you run into situations where it's like, how come my character has this effect on them? Actually, Charlotte was a good example too. Charlotte makes your team immune to silver effects, but if one of Charlotte's allies gets killed and then revived, they're not protected from silver effects until Charlotte's next turn. So we're just basically going back and we're just sort of cleaning up how we explain when these effects happen, just so that you can sort of have that in the back of your mind. Okay, so this is what this character is doing, and this is when I can sort of expect these effects to happen. That's sort of where we're kind of going with that right now.
Excellent. Thanks for that explanation. The next question. Oh, another one from Len. I thought I had all of his in order. Maybe not. Why is there no reply about bugged toons and talismans? For example, the power move from Daedalus while he's maxed never worked. And that's from Len.
Yeah, I mean, I think we fixed it, right? For the next update. We're constantly on alert from all of our player base, like through all of the channels that you guys reach us through, or that we scope out, and we try and fix these issues as soon as possible. Sometimes they're very easy fix, and that's when we can just on the fly fix them. But other times there are some critical stuff, and it's more complex. And so those take a little bit more time to iron out and fix.
Yeah, and I can touch on this a little bit too. So, like with Daedalus, his awakened power move, it's supposed to instantly kill a target when they have at least 6 burns on them. So we put them through a couple of tests, and we did some further investigating. And we are going to be including some minor fixes to this ability for this upcoming release, where he actually wasn't looking for every type of burn, and he was actually counting some effects as burns, even though they should not be counted as a burn. So, for example, if freeze was on a character, or if like fear was on a character, he would consider that to be a burn when it shouldn't. But on the flip side, he wasn't looking for effects like furious burns, which is a burn that he himself applied. So he'll be more accurately checking for burn effects when he's doing this ability. But if you ever find any situations where a character, regardless if it's this character or others, that isn't working as described, the best thing you can do, whether it's sending us a support ticket or really if it's posting it on the forum. I know like Len, he has his thread that looks awesome where he has a lot of details for these different characters. Giving us exact team and talisman combos really helps us replicate the issue, because sometimes the issue isn't actually the character itself that seems like they're bugged, but rather it's sourcing from another character or another talisman that has a conflicting interaction. So sometimes we'll take a character and we'll test the character and we'll try it out and we'll kind of make sure that it's working correctly and everything will look good. But just because there's so many different talisman combinations and character combinations in the game, it's impossible for us to test every possible interaction. So we have sort of a checklist of a variety of different things that we try to get as much exposure possible. But when a character is out there in the wild, if someone has a very specific strategy that they use, or they come across maybe a team in arena that's set up a certain way, finding out that exact setup really does help. And just to add a bit of context too, like Wasteland Eddie was a character that we got a lot of feedback on as not fulfilling the sort of promise of what his abilities are saying he can do. And the reason why we've taken a lot longer on Wasteland Eddie is because this is sort of like an interaction that's promised across his entire kit. So to go back and to really like refactor this character to sort of make him a lot more consistent, it's almost at the same level of creating a brand new Eddie. So we really wanted to find the right opportunity to sort of give him this treatment. And currently Wasteland Eddie is scheduled for the December release, for the Christmas release. So it's going to be us kind of revisiting him and sort of finding out what his true intended purpose is in a way that will work the most consistently. So I will say, just as like a minor preview, we're kind of looking at making him like the best choice for an Eddie when it comes to opening up a weak spot on the enemy team. If the enemy team relies on a lot of damage mitigation or shields and that kind of stuff, this will be a good character to make sure that like, okay, that character is exposed now and we're going to deal a lot of damage to that character. So, but that's why it's taken more time, just to kind of look at his whole kit from top to bottom.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you, Len. All right. So here's another question. How do you design a character and their various attacks? Do you typically get told which character to add, or do you guys suggest an idea for inclusion and then work from there? So I'm guessing it's like, do we ask Iron Maiden if we can add a specific character, or do we just kind of start them ourselves and then ask for permission or so on?
Well, both definitely happens. So sometimes there are situations where Maiden will have a very specific request for a certain type of character that they would like to have us explore. And then sometimes we sort of come to them with our own ideas, and then they sort of approve what they feel like would be best for us to have represent them. But regardless of whether or not the concept of the character came from Maiden directly, or if it's from us presenting it to them, everything is really inspired in some way or another from a specific song, from an album, from album art, all that kind of stuff. It has to stem from the source material, the Iron Maiden source material. And then when we actually look at a character and we kind of design their abilities, a key thing is that we try to build a character kit that is very expressive of the material that character represents. This is kind of what I meant earlier when I was saying that, we look to see if we're able to create interesting counters or introduce mechanics to the game that are very powerful. but as long as it ties back to the core theme of the character. So when you look at, say, like Fear of the Dark Eddie's recent rework, we really wanted to sort of have him better represent that awesome song, because Fear of the Dark is like, whew, that's in my top 10. But it's sort of this like this brooding darkness that's sort of building, and that nervousness that sort of rises. How the enemy, they are safer when they're above 50% HP, but when they get below 50% HP, Fear of the Dark Eddie gets stronger and stronger. And the more fear you're able to actually apply to your opponent, the more he gets, he can self-sustain. He can heal himself. So that's sort of like the idea there. And even with like Dark Road Eddie, the recent special edition of Fear of the Dark Eddie, his kit is really all about, when the opponent, one by one, as each person falls, that last person gets weaker and weaker. So they get more and more nervous, that they're going to succumb to the darkness. And then Fear of the Dark Eddie, as he gets, as his allies fall, he gets stronger and stronger. So when he becomes like, alone in the dark, he is at his prime. So that's sort of the thematic resonance that we kind of go for when it comes to designing these kits. But then when it comes from a more practical standpoint, we also look at the kind of role that they're going to fill. So like, we look at all the different classes in the game, and we also try to build characters that tie into the class identity. So like, what makes a warrior like a scrappy kind of bruiser compared to like, say, a tankier or more supportive sentinel, or maybe more like a manipulative magus, or sort of like a utility centric gunner, or like a high damage burst assassin. So we kind of, once we kind of get a class to a character, it helps us sort of build an identity for them. And then from there, we also look at roles within an identity. So we say, okay, among all the warrior characters, is this warrior going to be one of the tankier warriors, or is he going to be one of the more damaging warriors? Or among the gunner characters, is this character going to be all about special stat and building special stat, or are they going to be more about buffing their allies, or are they going to be more about reviving? So we look at each sort of class, we look at each sort of identity within a class, and kind of try to balance things out. So if we feel that like, okay, there's way too many assassins or way too many burst characters, let's balance it out. The next few characters, if the theme is appropriate, we'll try to make sure that there's a little bit of everything for each class. So
awesome. I hope that was definitely a nice explanation on that one. So let's move on to the next question. This is from Aviv, and he says, "Hi, I've played the game from day one, and I love the game. And I want to ask, when will we get to see No Prayer for the Dying Eddie?"
I mean, No Prayer for the Dying is an awesome album, awesome song, and the album cover with the Eddie in it looks fantastic. I mean, there's a lot of different Eddies, I think, that we haven't released yet in Legacy of the Beast. And that's definitely one of them. I mean, I'd also like to personally see an Infinite Dreams Eddie.
I was just about to say that.
An Eddie riding a motorcycle would be super awesome, because we got Charlotte and we got Ratchild. I just love the motorcycle characters. So I think 2021 we'll see maybe a refocus on some of those album Eddies.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so then this is one from No Name. Why is it still taking extended amounts of time to answer support questions or support tickets? And even when they're answered, the bugs still live on for months. Sometimes the ticket will be closed without an answer. I have some notes on this one, as well as, I believe... I don't know, yeah, it's just me. This is kind of just straight me, isn't it? Right? I'm community and support. So, I mean... during times of high ticket loads, which can happen, players don't always get their answer as quickly as we would want that to happen. We've made a number of improvements to our system as best we can to help our team kind of like efficiently get back to the players as fast as we can. We've come up against some hitches with that, and I think that's just natural. But over the past few months, we've added the FAQ to the forum, which we do our best to try and redirect people to whenever we have questions that or tickets that come in with answers or things that are already being kind of taken care of or attempted to be taken care of. We send them to the FAQ. We updated the new ticket submission form with improved help articles. So as you're typing in your topic or your subject, you should start to see potential answers even popping up that are on our in our help articles. We know that there are issues with Android devices, specifically attaching images in their first submission of the ticket. That's something that we're working with our support, like the system. We're working with our provider to try and get that fixed, because it's to do with the web portal that they provide us. So we are working on that. We do want that fixed. By the way, if you're an Android user with that issue, submit your ticket. When you get your response, which is like an automated one, you can reply to that with your image, and it works. So just in the meantime, as a solution until we get this fixed, you can do that. But on average, we've been contacting our players about critical issues like more quickly, and that's just like on an internal side of things. We've been tracking it very closely, and it has been much faster. We're still working on a backlog. There are tickets, like, we're not going to lie, there are tickets that are in there from last year. We're working our way through them as best we can. Sometimes there were ones that came up that were, the majority of the ones in the backlog, we're not talking about anyone missing purchases and stuff like that are always high priority. They're always fixed. Whenever you spend your money, we do our best to like make sure that you get that back as soon as possible if there was an issue with it, or you get your items. But it's like, if a bug was prevalent in an event 6 months ago, and your message was about that bug, it unfortunately does get moved into that backlog while we deal with day-to-day things, as well as then working through that backlog as fast as we can. As for the bugs that still seem to like hang around, it definitely depends on the nature of the bug. And I know that Durandal kind of mentioned this earlier, is like, whenever there are things that are more complex, they sometimes take a little bit more time. And Maku was mentioning that as well. And with that, because of that situation, like, once we know that there's a bug has been reported, there's a ticket system that we use internally. Once that's been reported and sent to the team, we know that that's on the roadmap to be fixed. It's not like it's just disappears into the ether. So once that's done, we can then close the support ticket. And that's just our process. Because we know then, and we should have then also informed you that it's been submitted to the correct place. And the process will take however long time, we don't know, or however amount of time. But that's the end of how we can help you in that ticket. If there's a resolution to the bug, you're going to find it in the tuning notes on the forum, or in specific updates on the forum. I believe, do I have any more notes on this? I think I covered everything I wanted to.
Yeah, that's the key thing. And basically, the support team is constantly helping people. Every single day, tickets are being answered and people are being assisted. So when it comes to like your individual requests, like just a few different things to keep in mind. Like, if you have an issue that you've reported, you really only need to report it the one time. Once we gather that information and it gets redistributed to the teams responsible, it goes on to our own internal lists for fixing an investigation. And at that point, this particular support individual has fulfilled their responsibility. I think there might be some miscommunication that the person who's answering the ticket is also the person who's fixing the bug,
Right.
Which is not the case. They are truly our reliable source of information, and they gather this important information from all you guys so that they can give it to us, and then we sort of sort it out and filter it and make sure that we can fit whichever fixes in appropriately. And when it comes to bugs, just to kind of reiterate on this again, the more detail that you can provide with a bug, the better. If you have trouble recording video footage or taking screenshots, it's fine. As long as you give us like a specific way that we can kind of just jump into the game and sort of recreate what you experienced, it really does help. But yeah, know that every single day people are being responded to and people are being helped out. And we really appreciate your patience too, because like we have a pretty big and active player base that really cares a lot about the game, and we do too. So this wouldn't even be a challenge for us if it wasn't for the fact that people actually cared so much about things working correctly and things like running smoothly. So it's a good sign, but definitely it's a challenge, but it's one that we're always working at tackling.
Awesome. So let's move on to the next question. How does the team play test new dungeons? Do you test different teams to gauge the difficulty, or do you just slap a couple of fitting characters together and equip them with meta talismans? I love that line. The latest release of the Infernal Horde makes me think it was rushed and not tested properly. And that's from Brickster. And actually, Durandal, you kind of touched on that already. But maybe we can answer the how does the team play test a new dungeon part.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote so many notes for this one too, like this huge paragraph, because I thought that we would just be like showing it, but I won't make you guys suffer through like another huge spiel. Basically, when new content when it comes to new content, we test it through multiple layers. We have like our in-house and external QA teams that make sure that like functionality is working to the best of its ability with the various interactions that we test it through. But also beyond that, the design team also likes to play test and actually make sure the content feels okay. So when it came down to the Infernal Dungeon, I think the miscommunication there is that it was truly meant to be this extreme, like, mega challenge. So for the majority of players who aren't really ready for that level of difficulty, it might have come off as very frustrating or sort of like rushed content. But we did carefully make sure that this was like, okay, let's say I've got everything. I've got all the characters. I got all the options. What's something that's still going to give me a challenge? That's the kind of audience that we were looking at catering to this time. But do know that typically when we go in, we also play test things with certain parameters. So for example, when I was personally kind of running through the Infernal Dungeon hard mode, I was testing out different teams with characters that were awakened with popular, powerful talismans, but it did not have any relic. So I usually test things with a baseline of 0 when it comes to relics, because I feel like if you can overcome the content, even if you have powerful maxed out characters, if you can do so without any boosts to your stats, I think you're sort of on the right track. But I think that really when it came down to the Infernal Dungeon, it was just a matter of just like proper communication. I think we could have better really hit the point home that like this was specifically meant to be a very extreme challenge, which is something that we'd like to explore again. But I think next time we'll do so with a lot more care and attention to the overall player base and make sure that anything that we put out is properly communicated, and that it's that there's nothing too exclusive behind that content, so it doesn't feel like if you're not ready for it yet that you're not necessarily missing out in a short period of time. So
perfect. Thank you for that. Another question from Brickster. Can you tell us a bit about parts of the Iron Maiden lore that you haven't explored yet, but want to at some point in the future?
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of stuff out there. I think we could definitely get our hands dirty with. Like personally, for me, I think a sci-fi sort of lore with the Somewhere in Time album cover as inspiration would be super sweet. I always loved the Seventh Son of the Seventh Sun album cover and why those monsters are trapped in the ice as well as the flying icebergs and stuff with the cool Eddie there. So diving into what planet that is or what lore we can tell from that would be pretty sweet as well.
Somewhere in Time. Somewhere in Time. That's my favorite, so I'd love to see us explore that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of like Blade Runner and all that kind of retro sci-fi stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, Dragon King hit that on the nail on the head there. He's like, would Somewhere in Time lore be similar in a way to Blade Runner? Literally, as soon as you said that, Durandal, he also said it in chat.
I mean, it would be up to Maiden, right? I mean, they would sort of truly direct kind of where that content would go and what it would look like. But I think the theme, the premise, the vibe that Somewhere in Time can provide. I think that would be so cool if we had a chance to work on that.
Yeah, I mean, we have a bounty hunter, Eddie, and he needs to do some bounty hunting, I think.
Yeah.
All right, so for our next question, so some players feel that there is very little interaction between developers and the community. How does the team feel, or does the team feel the same about this? And if so, are there plans to address this in the future?
Yeah, I think doing more Twitch streams like this, like you've been doing such a great job, Zeke, since starting this a couple months back. Man, time flies. And yeah, like Q&As like this once in a while is great for creating and expanding on that transparency between us as a dev team and to you guys as players.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm in the community. I'm a community manager. I'm not necessarily a developer, but I do feel like my interaction between what I know and what I can kind of share with the community has definitely increased over time. It's been definitely one of my personal initiatives on the team, is to try and like make sure that it gets, like, not that the lines are blurred between community and developer or studio, but more that we're more open and easily accessible without it becoming we're your best buds. I hope that I'm kind of doing that. The Twitch streams will definitely continue. The last couple of months, I know there wasn't one for September, but we'll be definitely including those running up to Christmas and the new year. If you guys have any suggestions as how we can increase that interaction between kind of developer and community, feel free to post that on the forum, post it on social. Go ahead and like create your own posts and tag us, the Iron Maiden Legacy of the Beast page. I'll see all of them. You can even message it in chat here. I have all of chat saves from today, so if you have suggestions, put it in here, and I'll make sure and document that. But thanks, Brickster.
Moving on, definitely come a long way.
Yeah, we sure have. I feel like in the last year, it's things have definitely changed, and we have more planned. I can't exactly share with you everything that I have planned, but I have proposals on the way. I have a bunch of stuff that I'm trying to make sure that we get down the pipeline. But just the same as how long it takes to get Eddies made, you got to make sure that we do things in the right way, so that they're enjoyable to both players, yourselves, and the studio who get involved.
Who here would do an Iron Maiden karaoke contest in the chat? Who here is brave enough?
I'm going to shut that one down. I'm going to shut that down right away. There's no chance I'm doing that. You can host it if you want to, Randall.
No, I won't make them suffer.
All right, next question is from Dynamo Jaeger. When will Silent Planet and Isle of Avalon release?
Okay, very direct question. Deserves a direct answer, I guess. Avalon, we are in the thick of it, working on it. Things can change. Anything we say in the stream can definitely change, because even the well-laid plans can, something might pop up that requires a change. But we're aiming to release Avalon content in the beginning of 2021.
It's ramping up. It's very exciting.
Very exciting. Rock and Rulo, really quickly, go ahead and submit a support ticket. We can get help. We can help you out over there. All right. So next question. You added alchemist frags to clan mythics or clan mythical souls. Is there a plan to expand the store to spend all of these frags? And that's from Whip.
Yeah. And basically, when we looked at mythical clan souls, we got a lot of feedback that players didn't really feel like it was always worth the cost of gold to open up. So we really wanted these, because it's sort of the last soul in the line of clan souls, we wanted it to feel a lot more rewarding. So we expanded the reward pool. There's a very rare chance of getting some pretty spectacular rewards that some people have been lucky enough to collect and sort of show off to their friends. whether it's Ironite, an amount of Ironite, whether it's sort of a mythical talisman soul, whether it's the god soul fragments. But one thing that we also added in there was the alchemist soul fragments, because we wanted to also put something in that soul that catered to someone who is, say, more in the early stage or mid stage, that's in these active clans, that's able to slowly build up this soul. There are a lot of players, and I think we take for granted too, that just don't really have the roster of characters ready to, say, do like vortexes in sacrifice, or someone who's able to do ultimate sacrifices regularly. So we wanted to have a reward in there. It's not super common, but there is a chance to get alchemist soul fragments just sort of to help these players out. But we also know that for late stage players who have everything that they already need when it comes to alchemist soul fragments, we want to definitely expand on the rotating shop that comes out during sacrifice events. So we first sort of experimented with a soul that contains a random variant of an alchemy cosmic talisman. So, alchemy being a very reliable and helpful 5 set, especially being able to, cleanse effects cleanse negative effects off yourself and your team at the start of your turn. Being able to sort of dump your extra alchemist soul fragments towards these souls and hopefully get a high tier version of this cosmic talisman. That was sort of the first step. I see Murda got a T2, so that's pretty awesome. But we're still looking at more ways of expanding upon this, because someone, what happens if you get lucky and you just happen to get, a T3 red alchemy cosmic talisman? Okay, you've got the jackpot. Now what? So we're definitely going to see what we can do with these fragments going forward too. And like I mentioned earlier in the stream, I think 2021 is going to be really about streamlining various ways to spend your resources on things that are valuable consistently all the time. So, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. From Lance, will we get Passchendaele Eddie in the next few months?
I am very psyched for Passchendaele Eddie, and he will definitely be one of the Eddies I'll be pushing for in 2021. It's just a matter of getting approvals done and all that stuff. But Passchendaele Eddie is definitely in my mind for sure.
Excellent. All right. How do you guys decide what star rarities a character will become? And that's from Dr. Eli.
Yeah, I mean, important Eddies and allies will always get a higher star rarity. And higher star rarity usually means like higher power, higher complexity. That might be, less accessible to our newer players, but yeah, I mean that's basically how those star rarities work.
Excellent, thank you. Next question: can extra stretch goal reward levels be added beyond Triple S in Clan Raid Boss, like extra Ironite for each additional 1,000,000 points? Can you add clan leaderboards so we can see how we rate among others? And that's from Edsel.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of things we want to do with the Raid Boss as a feature, but right now we're sort of heads down trying to get you guys Avalon content, and so we have nothing real concrete to share at this time about it.
Yeah, I'll also say that we're pretty happy with some of these clans that have like a full group of active players that are consistently able to hit these Triple S rewards. Like, it's very impressive that you guys are able to maintain just a steady flow of these rewards, and we're pretty happy with the rate in which you guys are collecting this stuff. If anything, if we were to sort of revisit the reward structure for Raid Boss, it would be more likely to be catered to players that actually struggle to get these kind of ratings. So there are a lot of sort of half-filled clans, or clans where you have a few casual players and only a few very active players, and then just sort of like helping them figure out how to get the most out of Raid Boss would be sort of our next step. Because we think at the top end, we're actually quite happy where people are at right now. I think it's just a matter of like, okay, well, how do we make Raid Boss a fulfilling experience that's worth your time if you're not in a full clan, or if you're one of the few active players in a clan, that kind of thing.
All right. How does the team think about the balance between offering variety yet maintaining a reasonable demand on the player base to not miss out or fall behind? And this is in reference to the number of dimensions or modes that the game currently has available.
Yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing process of optimizing our events, I think. We're constantly trying to figure out new interesting events to give to you guys, and maybe retire old ones, and making the player time feel well spent during the time in our game. I guess, for not missing out or falling behind, there's lots of ways, and there's different rotations of characters or eddies that you might have missed that resurface. So I think with all that stuff, it's it's an ongoing process for sure. And yes, there's a doggo in Durandal's area.
I forgot to preface the stream. I was gonna be like, okay, at some point you might hear a dog bark. It's not your dog. It's my dog. Gosh.
We can, I can assure you, chat, this dog is ridiculously cute. But we're going to keep it to just the studio members for today, unless Durandal wants otherwise. But it's
he's already
completely his,
right now.
Because it's completely his choice.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for the question. I don't think we had a name for this question. I couldn't find one. So this one's from Rob G. What is the point of 1 and 2 star characters? Because new players can easily obtain 3 to 5 star characters to build a roster.
Oh yeah, so the question here is shorter than the ones.
Right, yeah.
I will actually read my response to this. I said, "How dare you speak ill of my beloved rifles and sandworms? You're all laughing now, but when Awakened Sandworm enters the stage, there will be hell to pay." So, seriously though, the 1 and 2 star characters are there, for someone who's brand new to the game, to help fill out the roster of enemies that you fight in the campaign, to help sort of scale up that difficulty, to give you things that you can sort of introduce yourself to sacrifice with. But it doesn't mean that they're forgotten forever. Who knows? Maybe one day the 1 stars will come back swinging and they'll want revenge. So we'll see what happens.
There might be a reason to use your 1 stars, 1 or 2 stars this weekend, or at least they're leveled versions of them if you have some. So keep an eye on the social channels just in case you're interested in that. I believe I have it planned for Sunday. Sunday there may be, I'll just tell you now. Sunday there is going to be a 24-hour community challenge that everyone can win something in. All right? You just got to compete. So, Sunday, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, your choice. Keep an eye out for it. All right. Moving on. Next question.
I wish I had the picture. Once upon a time ago on the forum, I posted a really crappy MS Paint pitch of what an awakened sandworm would look like, where it was just 5 sandworms and each was its own limb and it would just walk like a human.
I remember that. That was good. I think that was. Did we put that in the News Frontier in October 2019?
Oh, once upon a time ago.
I'll see if I can find that. I'll have to see if I can find that. All right.
Don't make fun of the thing that haunts you at night. That's all I gotta say.
Brickster, why is the clan feature still in beta? To me, it seems we got the most features already live, and they seem to be working.
Yeah, I mean, we had previous questions about where's certain aspects of Clan War or Raid Boss 3 and other functionalities that dealt with the clan feature. So, I mean, there's still a lot of stuff. I think beta in this context doesn't necessarily mean that it's a test of any kind. It's just basically, I view it as a feature in our game that hasn't reached its full potential yet, and that's why it has that beta level, and we're consistently thinking about it and trying to come up with things. I mean, we got Raid Boss 3 to put in there still, and definitely a lot of different stuff we could explore with that system.
That's kind of the way I thought about it too. You know, I play plenty of games that are currently in beta, and they're like, wow, this is like, it's a great game. I'm not testing for the company. I'm just playing something that's not quite as they have intended to have it as their finished product.
Yeah, I mean, it's like one of those words that's been overused so much by all these different companies that it sort of lost its initial meaning when it came out. But yeah.
All right, next question. I had that one in there twice. What programs do you use to create and animate characters? We answered this earlier because we did the random jump thing. The answer to that was Maya. And are there any difficulties with transferring the finished model into the game itself? As far as I'm aware, no. Maya and Unity have great plugins. Cool. Next one. Would you add an inventory system so we can see all the awakening materials, evil materials, etc.? And that's from Kingy JD.
That'd be very cool, but we don't have any new info on that sort of stuff.
Cool. You can still access all of that from, like, you know, clicking on a character that can be awoken or can be leveled up and just kind of scrolling through. I know it's not obviously the most reliable, but it is a way currently of seeing it, right? Cool. This one is from No Name. There are still some event characters that can't be obtained anywhere, like Scold, Genghis Khan, Hellraiser Eddie, Saw Eddie, and why not the birds? When can we expect a refresh of the Frontier shop with some new souls or frags for different characters, or the adding of these tunes into the regular souls? Really quickly, as far as I'm aware, the birds will never be added back in, unless we were to do some sort of like Rovio kind of thing again. I wasn't around whenever the birds happened. I don't think any of us were, but it's our understanding that that's not going to happen again.
Yeah, I think it was very specific to that time. And yeah, unfortunately, we can't bring them out as much as I'd love to see them around more. And for the latter half of that question, we're constantly looking into ways to make Frontier Coin Shop better and fill it with more things.
Cool. Yeah, and your characters like Scold and Genghis Khan, they're fairly recent. They were event specific, but if you look back in time at like event specific characters like, say, Lilith and Lord of Light and so on, they're now available in different ways. So I imagine, think of these characters in the same way in general.
Process, yeah.
You're going to see them eventually.
You'll see them. But not the birds.
But not the birds.
We just want to be very direct about that, so you guys aren't led on or have any false hopes.
Oh, Leviathan was around whenever the birds came out. That's right. Leviathan is one of the oldest running members of our team. Right. What is going to be your regular pace for releasing events? Are we talking like 8 per month, more or less?
Yeah, I think the cadence of events that we've been doing for the last couple of releases is what you can expect sort of moving forward. Obviously, with the holidays coming out, I think you'll see a little bit more events than normal around this time. But we're constantly thinking about creating new ones and retiring old ones and such, and just coming up with more fun ideas for you guys to play with in the game.
All right, next question. Oh wait, we're done. I believe that was quite the last one that I have tiles for. So that's all of the pre-recorded questions that we kind of put together. We kind of, I know there were more. I think there was a total of about 55, 56 submissions specifically for questions. We've answered 32 or 33 on screen, but as you saw from some of the tiles, I merged quite a few of those questions. So your question may not look exactly as it did whenever you submitted it. There may be some questions that were just omitted and included in others. I did my utmost to make sure that there was nothing left out, no questions asked, about anything that I didn't put up on a tile. Now, Maku and Durandal, there's a section in your document with you see that one with the blue writing?
Yes. Yes.
Do you want me to ask that question?
No.
Got it. What about Infinity Eddie? As in like a Thanos Eddie.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would love to collab with Marvel, but they haven't been returning replies on my frantic emails.
Yeah, we can't spoil everything, or otherwise we'll have nothing to reveal later. So.
And another one that I have kind of written down here that I didn't have time to put into a tile. And it's an interesting one for me because I think this is all very like heavy lore based. Are all the worlds, so like Underworld, Power Slave, Night City, are they separated universes or are they in the same universe? And if they're separate, would each world have its own time flow? And that's from Blaze Metal.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lore master and writer in our team, and they would probably be the best to answer this. So I guess I would just give my personal theory, and I think they are in the same universe but with different time flows. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, basically they're traveling through time and space, but it's within the one sort of universe. So they're traveling through all these different locations, and certain characters have the power. It seems that they can traverse across these different locations. But I mean, that's sort of just the power of Eddie, I suppose. But yeah, it would be good if we ever had an opportunity to really dive into like the narrative aspects of the game. But definitely, we are not the best representatives for that.
We got to find the keepers of the lore for the next question.
Yeah,
question and answer stream. Cool. All right. So I think that's the end of our question section. How about we have a quick chat about one of the topics that was voted on? So in the pre-submitted questions form, you guys were given the opportunity to discuss or ask for a discussion on a specific topic, and the one that won out was character design, which is kind of perfect because the two members that I have on screen with me today are they're character designers. So I don't know, did you guys have anything in particular that you wanted to mention? Actually, if you guys have a quick look in the chat room, I have a quick question. Sorry about the slight delay here. Twitch chat, I'm just checking to see if there's something I can show you. There's multiple things I can show you. I'm just trying to see which one we go for.
You can give it a code name.
I mean, just go for it.
Yeah. Okay. I'll tell you what. Let's use this opportunity because Maku and Durandal, being our character designers, this will give them a good way to kind of like talk a little bit about character design. I'm going to open up my game here. Give me a few moments, and we're going to have a look at X Factor Eddie, and we're going to have a look at the Headless Horseman. So, if you guys want to go ahead and get the conversation started, I'll get this running.
Ooh, spooky characters. The X Factor Fury, by the way, just to preface things, I know it's not necessarily like our realm of expertise, but the animation does look pretty sick, I gotta say.
I was the one who came up with the way it looked.
Oh yeah, you directed the.
I was the storyboard director, like Spielberg and J.J. Abrams before me.
See, I'm more of a Tarantino kind of guy myself. Yeah, I guess we could talk about just the inspiration behind like the theme of X Factor Eddie and what players can sort of expect, what sort of role people can expect him to fill.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of look at these new upcoming Eddies as sort of like the spearheaded character in your team that you could build around for certain different like gameplay styles. So for X Factor Eddie, it was all about like pushing the boundaries of what a character can do with fury and power generation. I think if you look at his kit, he basically has a second fury in a form of a 12 cost energy attack in his future energy attack. And his entire kit is about suppressing the enemy from doing any cool stuff while you do all the cool stuff. So we'll see exactly if that actually pans out in the meta, but he's definitely been one of my pet sort of projects to sort of push what a control type of character in this game would look like.
All right, folks, bear with me. I believe he's in my inventory here. Just need to find him.
Well, look at the loaded account. You're OP, man.
Don't worry. This is a test account. Don't worry.
Look at him hoarding for sacrifice. What's going on here?
All right, one sec. I'm actually just gonna adjust my screen slightly and make it a little bigger.
You know, I'm actually so happy with the way he turned out because when I first heard that we were really doing this character and I first saw like little bits and pieces of like the concept art, I actually thought that he was just going to be like a reskinned version of like Storm Eddie or Speed of Light Eddie. But now that I actually finally see him with like this crazy like lobotomy machine and like the blood kind of dripping off like that platform there, like it's just so much more. So it looks pretty wild. Jeez, the electricity like in his arms.
I think he's also probably the highest special in the game as well, just to push that power and fury stuff. He scales off of his attacks with special, and so if you look at his talisman slots, if you wanna go check that out. I think chat was also wondering what his talisman slots were. We kept it pretty simple: one blue and one yellow, one gunner, one Magus slot there to give you that flexibility of putting in a 5-color gunner set or a 5-color Magus set. Yeah, I mean, this is level 1, so I guess you're not seeing the full stat priority for this guy, but he is definitely going to play very well with Niflheim, and he does magic damage that scales off of special, so you can't go wrong with going for a full gunner or full Niflheim sets with him.
I'm just gonna level mine up.
Yeah. You maybe power him up so people can check out his final stats.
Yeah, and you get to use 24 skill shards total on him. Skip through that.
That's it. He's jacked up.
There it is.
Look at that special stat. Wow! How many furies would you like, sir?
All
yes.
of them. Yes. All right, and then I need to find one other character for us to have a look at.
Hold on, do you want to show his fury and his signature power ability?
I think we hold off and let everyone find that for themselves because it's coming real soon.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
I think we let them see all of that for themselves. So let's see if we can find. I don't
big damage is all I'll say.
Here we go. Look at all them hearts. I think I was testing something with awakening shards or awakening talismans, or not awakening talismans, awakening souls. Yeah, I was definitely testing something with awakening souls. Oh my goodness. We're not looking at a warrior. We're looking for
Gunner.
Gunnar.
See if he's here. He should have added. There we go. The Headless Horseman. I can adjust my screen slightly for this guy. Hold on.
He's a tall boy.
He's very tall. Look at this. He is gorgeous. I love his armor. I love his horse armor. So nice.
It is a very sick looking character for sure.
And Maku, you designed his kit, right?
Yeah, he is all about fearing the enemy and inflicting stuns if they're feared. All of his basic and power attacks also don't wake sleeping enemies, so he'll be great paired up with allies that could sleep, because he won't be interrupting that sleep whatsoever. He does inflict sleep with his basic as well, so yeah, I love his passive. One of my favorite instrumental riffs in the Maiden catalog for sure. I wanted to represent that. That was my number one goal. Forget everything. It was just the passive name. No. But yeah, I think players will have a lot of fun with this guy.
Excellent. And actually, there's something else very, very interesting about the art of the Headless Horseman, which we're going to be talking about on our social channels really soon. So if you're not already following them, please do. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Iron Maiden Legacy of the Beast. Because this is pretty cool. We had a pretty cool collaboration for his design, more specifically for his pumpkin. So you'll be able to see it soon. Now that is, I believe, the end of what I wanted to show off from the game. And I believe we're moving on to our next section, which is the last section, which is random questions from chat. All right. So if you've been here this whole time, thank you so much. That's an hour and 45 minutes of predetermined questions, which we personally, I don't think we were expecting to be here that long, were we? Hold on, I'm just gonna close this down and pull this up. And all right, chat, you have 10 minutes. I'm counting. Throw your questions in. Everyone's looking. We'll pull them and we'll answer them as best we can. Mr. K, can I send you some of my Sands of Time? No, you can't have any of my Sands of Time, sorry.
You're muted, Durandal.
Oh, whoops. Okay. I just want to preface this quickly. Now that we've seen that the Headless Horseman is confirmed to be a Gunner class character, it does mean that there aren't any assassin characters that can equip the Paranoia Cosmic Talisman. I know it's a question that's been kind of floating around if there would be an assassin character that could wear it for the Infernal Dungeon. The Infernal Dungeon will be getting the hard mode for it is going to get some minor tweaks to make it a bit more accessible while still being challenging with our next release. And there's also going to be a fantastic talisman set, a 6 set coming out in the near future. That's also going to be a very valuable tool against anyone who can sort of avoid your damage. So we'll check that out in the future. But I think that's important information to get out too, because it's something that people have been wondering about.
I see a question from Nilspar, and actually this is something that I had been asking about recently, and getting more information from the engineering team. So can you address the login issues and server downtime that happens at event launches? Yeah. My understanding of it, and this is directly from the engineering team, is that there are a couple of things that can happen. And this is stuff that they're constantly working on. They're constantly trying to make it a better experience for everyone. But we can experience like a funnel-like situation. So if you have a big gallon or liter jug of water and you pour it into a funnel, all of that water is going in and coming out at a slower rate at the bottom of the funnel. And the water are you players, and the funnel is the system that's set up in the server to allow players into the game. So we can only allow a certain amount in before things kind of like start to get backed up and the funnel will start to fill up. So you get put into a invisible queue system. So sometimes that's what you'll see with the long loading times getting logged in. When you're seeing connection issues, that can sometimes be a different problem. That can be a latency buildup, which is basically your player action, the thing that you're telling the game to do, gets delayed between you clicking the battle button and the battle actually starting, or your sands being taken, or your soul being summoned, whatever it is that you're doing. And that's a latency issue, and that requires us to complete a at the moment it requires us to complete like a bit of a reset, make some changes, and that's something that we're working on. And that's like the engineering team always have that kind of stuff as top priority. And I know last weekend or at the end of, or the beginning of this week, there was an issue with it, and they were working on it as fast as they could, and there was some downtime in the game or difficulty. That was a latency thing. People could get in, people could play, but it was like there was like a delay, and that creates problems. And they always want to make sure that gets better. So thank you for your question. Any?
Muted. Just to add to that point, we're also trying to explore different ways of organizing our events and our event challenges to be more flexible and respectful of your time, so that you don't feel like you have to be sort of glued to this event from the moment it begins to the moment it ends. That you have that ability to sort of come in on your own schedule, get the things done, and then you're complete. And it also means that if, say, you're having trouble getting in and playing consistently at the very beginning of an event when everyone rushes in, it's okay. You have that flexibility to come back maybe in a few hours or maybe the next day and then get all of your stuff done. So we're going to try and experiment and explore what kind of opportunities we have to do so. But we definitely want to make it so that to help alleviate those sort of immediate rushes for new events, that you can sort of participate on your own schedule and still get everything done. So
I'm gonna scroll through here and see what we missed and see if I can answer any of these or get answers for them. Have you any other ideas for collaborating with other bands? It would be awesome to see someone like Vic Rattlehead aside Ed. All of that stuff is reliant on Iron Maiden and their wish to do collaborations. That's all stuff that gets put into the process and requested whenever there's really good options for it. So I wouldn't put it in the no bucket, but I would put it in the very reliant on certain situations bucket.
That's pretty high level stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, the representatives of Maiden and their management, I mean, they seem to be positive towards that kind of stuff. So it's just a matter of like, finding the right people that would be a good fit, and then seeing kind of what the potential of that collaboration would look like. So it's kind of like a always down for it. It just comes down to, the actual the finer details. So
how long does it take for a character to make the journey from concept to release?
It varies. Sometimes we have a concept for a character well in advance before we can figure out when we can release that character. Sometimes the turnaround super fast, where we're like, all right, we're releasing this dungeon content, like which characters make sense, and so we could go pretty quickly from concept to release. But yeah, it's all about delivering awesome looking characters and eddies to you guys that fit within a theme together.
Yeah, I think sometimes we've had ideas for individual characters that would be so cool to add to the game, but we just could never find like the right release to fit them in. So they just ended up kind of sitting on the bench in lieu of other cool characters that were more cohesive. So sometimes, a character might check all the boxes, and then if everything kind of fits, they'll go from their concept phase to their design phase to testing and having all that art done, in the matter of like a month or two. Sometimes, a character might be planned way in advance, and they might end up existing or they might not. So it does vary.
And every concept has to be approved by Maiden. So, sometimes that approval process takes a while. Sometimes it's just like, this looks awesome, let's go with it, sort of thing. So these things can change. It's a constant evolving process.
Awesome. All right, we've got 3 minutes. I'm gonna quick fire as many as possible. Leviathan has sent me a list of ones. We'll see what we can do here. If we don't have like direct answers, don't worry about it, guys. We now have a list of all these questions, so they're things that we'll do our best to try and address in the future. All right, so straight from Leviathan. From Leviathan, these are things that have come up throughout the stream as we've been going. Is it possible to put dates next to the events in the monthly calendar? That's kind of like a community and live operations question. I'll answer that in saying that we put our event schedules out at the end of the month in order. And then you guys have seen the order in which we kind of do events mostly month to month. Putting the dates on it can be a problem for certain aspects of like kind of the social kind of thing, because then like there are a lot of you guys who are ride or die fans that will not worry too much if we have to change a date on something, like say the next sacrifice event is set for the 15th, and then we're like, oh guys, we need to move it to the 17th just because we need to do a server update or something like that. You guys aren't going to mind, but some people will, and there'll be backlash. So we do tend to try and keep our dates to ourselves, just so that it makes it easier for us to adjust things if we need to. However, we rarely do. Next question. Any chance of making the Leprechaun available for us Irish fans? I wish. I missed him whenever he was available in my own like regular account. I've only ever been able to play with him in my test account, which frustrates me to no end. And I'm pretty sure that came from Cork Iron. So yeah, I wish. Maybe I'll just flip that switch one day when no one's looking, and make the Leprechaun available for free. Can we do that? No, we can't. I'm joking.
Maybe next March.
Maybe next March we'll figure it out.
Bring it back.
Could we implement a record and detail on the attacks made in the raid boss? Ooh.
Sorry, say that question again?
Yeah. Could we implement a record and detail on the attacks made on the raid boss? I think they're asking is like for each attack. You know the way in like League of Legends, you can see it your death screen, what attacks did what damage.
Interesting.
What killed you? Something like that.
Or like even like one of those stat graphs of like how much damage each person did and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be cool. It would also be cool to have like a lifetime history reward of like the character that carried you the hardest in raid boss, like that kind of thing. It would just come down to like the logistics of like how much is involved in putting that in the game, and does it make sense compared to other things that we have going on.
Yeah, I mean it sounds awesome, but in terms of priority, it's probably not at the very top.
Right. Next one. Can you reduce the timer count for doing autoplay from 10 to 3 again? Guys, this is benefiting you. I know you're not able to make as many runs as you used to be able to with a 3-second timer on your auto run, but believe us, the autoplay being at 10 for the time being is benefiting you. If we can change it, we will. Let's see. Everyone's asking for the sandworm to be awoken, Durandal, just so you know.
I'm also asking.
But if we ever do the sci-fi somewhere in time, maybe we could come up. When a theme makes sense to bring back the sandworms in any way, I'm sure Durandal will do all in his power to awaken them.
Perfect. Will Lone Star Eddie, Ed Hunter, and Guy Fox Eddie have their own dungeon or be available in the store?
They will come out in different ways, for sure. We don't have concrete info on exactly when and where, but we're constantly looking into that.
Cool. Let's see. Now I'm moving on to the chat questions from the last few minutes. I'm going to add a couple minutes onto this because plenty of questions have come through and I don't want to miss everyone, but I will have to be selective, guys. Will one day Infinite Dreams Eddie come out? I think we answered that earlier. Maku said that he would really love to see an Infinite Dreams.
I would love to do it, and I'll be pushing for it in 2021.
Hell yeah. Motorcycle Team, Wrathchild, Charlotte, Infinite Dreams Eddie. some other person on a motorcycle. It'd be fantastic.
Be awesome. Dragon Kings are the only characters that aren't playable. Will we see them anytime soon as a playable character? Those are the guys from Brave New World, right?
Yeah. I don't really see that character. There's so much going on behind the scenes in that character.
That's right.
Especially considering, like, think about how unique its presentation is and how unique the interaction is with that character. I don't really see us ever doing a playable version of it unless it was like a totally like visual, thematically themed only. Like in terms of actual gameplay and how it would fit in your team, I don't think we'll see it. But you'll be distracted by the awesomeness that is the third raid boss. So we will see what happens there.
Let's see. Mr. Bad, two messages from earlier. Wildest dreams, Eddie? Question mark. I think the answer would be yes. Just when? Question mark. Is our answer.
There's a lot of awesome Eddies yet to be released, and he's on the list.
That kind of ties into our timeline question from earlier, and like, do we see a lifespan for the game? And like, that's really cool because even in chats like this, you realize how little we actually have touched in Iron Maiden lore, and how much there is still available for us.
Mm-hmm. Tell you what, ask us that question when we run out of things, which will be never.
Okay, would player trading be among your clan ever be considered?
Player trading, as in like character swapping?
Yeah, character trading more so than the available for troopers, I guess.
No,
yeah, I don't think character trading is something we'll be able to do. Like it goes way deeper than just like letting your friend borrow the character in terms of like what kind of impact that makes. Especially for anyone that like wants to abuse that kind of system, they just have farms of accounts and they just collect all the characters in, and then they just like pretend to be official sources, and they sell characters and all that kind of stuff. It's just it's a slippery slope, that kind of stuff. But definitely the sentiment, the ability to kind of like let other players utilize things that you have on your team is very cool.
Will we include Hellish Maclo, inspired by the cover of Virtual 11? Or Virtual Exile?
Do we already have a Maclo bot? Not like specifically from the like the visuals of the cover, but
I'm not sure.
I'm like quickly pulling it up right now.
I mean, there's some awesome stuff with Virtual 11 that we could definitely pull from as well. So I would
for sure.
I wouldn't say no to any of that.
You want Zaredi available in the Frontier store? Zaredi will be available at some point, somewhere. He will come back. Don't worry about that. Not sure when, not sure how, but he will. There is one question here that I'm going to address really quickly, because so there have been questions both submitted, and I was saving this for the end. By the way, everyone, is there have been questions that have been submitted and also that have been asked during the stream about inventory expansion, more character slots, more talisman slots, more like availability to find your leveling up items, your Evo items and everything throughout. I saved it for the end simply because I wanted to address and say that it's stuff that we're working on. It's stuff that the team are considering. We can't give you any kind of direct answers now. I know everyone wants to know more. Everyone wants more than the 600 character slots, because you're feeling like it's becoming more and more important for you to have duplicate characters for things like clan raids and so on, and raid boss. Bear with us. We'll figure some sort of messaging out once we have our decision made in the studio as to what we need to do. And once that's done, we'll let you know. Unfortunately, that's the most I can give you right now. I hope that's enough.
I can add a little bit to it. I think a key thing that we're looking at too is we're looking at the sort of, what is the true solution? Because if the true solution, we don't feel that like constantly adding inventory space is really tackling like the real issue here. Because I think there's only like 200 to 300 characters, like unique characters in the game. So 600 slots, for example, is like more than enough to house all the current characters and then characters coming up. But right now, there's this precedent that it's important to sort of amass this collection of characters in preparation for events like Sacrifice. So I think that if we were to expand it, say to like 700 or to 800, it doesn't really tackle sort of the core of the issue. So, I don't have any details or anything definite to really share, but I think it's important to know that we're just having conversations and we're exploring sort of how we can really get at the root of the issue. Which in this case would be like, how do we make it so that there isn't as much of a necessity to hold on to so many characters and to constantly keep your inventory full, right? So I think that if we can find like a really good streamlined way to address that, I think I think that you'll see some massive improvements that don't necessarily require you to constantly scroll further and further and further every time that we increase the inventory limit. Because I don't know about you guys, but let's say if we had like 1,000 character limit and you had a full inventory of 1,000 characters, think about scrolling through all of that. Like that's just not the most fun thing to do in the world.
No, it's not fun at all.
I think that what's important to us is not just putting a band-aid fix. It's really finding a solution that truly gets at what the need is. So that's what I'll add to that for now. Also, what the heck is going on over here?
Thanks for that answer, Durandal. That really does help a lot, actually. Brickster, got a question from you that I can answer. You really like reading the news frontier. Could I bring that back, please? The news, the art from the community, teasers, etc. Brickster, I have been doing my best to manage the news frontier along with the Twitch stream stuff. I'm going to be moving the news frontier to a bi-weekly kind of format, which will kind of fit better in and will also then tie better with my new plan for the State of the Nation, which is going to become a quarterly thing. So it might become a little shorter, but it'll be a little bit more frequent, which will hopefully help with the community studio relations that you guys have been asking for, that kind of more information, more openness from us. So give me time with the news frontier. The amount of stuff that I've had to handle recently unfortunately has limited my time to doing the news frontier, but it will be coming back, definitely. Let's see if we've got anything else. We can just answer one last one and then we're done. Arvataxer, that dog is really cute. It's not a question, but it's more of a statement. But yes, definitely, it is very, very cute. Winter is.
I think it's a question about awakening characters and what determines that, and like what makes us go back to retweaking older kits. I think those go hand in hand. When we look at awakening a character, we actually look back at the entirety of the kit, and most of the time those need tune-ups as well. So we sort of do both. And if we make a special edition character, that borrows from that kit, that also sort of spurs us into action to retuning that kit as well. So yeah, it's I see awakening characters as awesome. So I'd love to see more of that. And you will see a lot more of that, I think, in the upcoming releases.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right, so that wraps up our questions. I have the entire chat saved from today, so if there's anything that was asked and not answered, and I do believe that it needs answered, I will be creating a document that will either be up before, like, at the end of this week or the beginning of next week, with like some written answers to our questions, but the YouTube video will be available later this afternoon. We have one last thing to show you. And I need just a minute to make sure that I was testing how I can set this up, and it wasn't working at first, but I believe I have it figured out.
Oh, good. I was actually worried for a moment that we wouldn't have time to show it, but
we have a few moments, and we're going to show them off real quick. All right, okay. So all of you guys who have been asking about Avalon, you've been, Isle of Avalon, when's it coming? We have something that we're going to show you that you're actually going to be seeing mid-November, Durandal, and have in your inventories available to you if you're good enough. If you can push your own limits, you can get this character. And let me introduce to you Gabriel. Gabriel is our first character that is coming from the Isle of Avalon series of characters. They will be available as a gauntlet character.
Starting mid-November.
Mid-November. So the next Gauntlet season, the next character specific Gauntlet season that's coming, not the fall special tour, but this is your character that will be available to you. And I have also then, we're saving some of her animations so that you can't see them. But here's her attack. That sword, like it. Do you know what it reminds me of? Like, it just makes me think of like the Buster sword, or one of the Buster swords that you can get from Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. So just to give a bit of context, sorry to interrupt there, but basically, Archangel Gabriel, Lady of Avalon, going to be a major player in the story in Isle of Avalon, and this is basically giving players a chance to sort of like collect her and have her sort of in their party ready to go by the time that content comes out. So when this character becomes available for season 9 of Gauntlet, the Gunner season, you're going to have a chance to sort of fight your way through the Gauntlet to collect her. 2 weeks from that date, whoever manages to get first place is going to be able to wield her power in various areas of the game early. And some just quick notes about her too is that she's the very first Gauntlet character to have a Fury attack, which looks absolutely badass, and we cannot show you yet because we would spoil everything, and we want to still have like a fun tidbits to show you later. And one thing about her kit, a very interesting thing, is that she's similar to Oni Eddie in that once you use one of her abilities, she becomes exalted, and then while she is exalted, her basic attack and her Fury attack get all kinds of crazy bonuses. We're talking like team-shattering bonuses. So when you play as Gabriel, it's all about that race to get your power ability off as fast as possible, become exalted, and smite away your foes. So I think that players are going to really dig this character. She's going to be freaking awesome. So
you got the buffing animation there, Zeke?
I took that one out. I'm not showing it to
them. Yeah, we'll say more later. This is more of like a sneak peek, but she's going to lay waste to all evils very soon. But I think we got one more thing.
We have one more thing, and this is coming December, right?
Yes, December. Holy moly. We are going to make Christmas 2020 like the most memorable, awesome event for you guys. Oh, you already put it on screen.
He's up on screen.
We have the Awakened Terrible Tim coming out with a vengeance as part of a sort of light sequel to the events that occurred last year with the Christmas Carol sort of parody and Scrooge Eddie. We're looking at returning to some of the fan favorite characters and giving them a dark, twisted Christmas spin. But definitely Tiny Tim's coming back real strong. His pop gun is now an actual revolver. And he's going to just lay waste to anyone who decides that they can think they can stop Christmas. So I think he's going to be a real fun character to use. So
Brickster,
yeah, I'm very excited for that release.
Brickster, I believe Durandal created Tiny Tim in the beginning last year as well as now Terrible Tim this year. Is that correct?
Yep. I designed his kit, and when I saw the feedback when people were like, "Oh, Tiny Tim does like a tiny amount of damage. He tries his best. Poor little guy. He can only do so much." People were picking on him. People were sacrificing him. It's funny. We had a fragment event for him, and people collected so many Tiny Tims, and they just tossed them in the trash. So now Tiny Tim's coming back. He's pissed off. He wants his revenge. And if anyone had missed collecting Tiny Tim, there will be an opportunity to earn him again. So if anyone doesn't already have Tiny Tim, maybe they only just started playing earlier this year, they'll have a chance to collect this awesome character and then also awaken him with the December release. But oh man, there's so many cool characters coming out in December. Like, this is just one of many. So I think that you guys are really gonna dig the story content, the characters. Is gonna be a Christmas to remember, a Christmas to remember. And then right after that, New Year, crazy Avalon kind of stuff is underway. It's gonna be a good time.
Excellent. All right, well, everyone, that is the end of the stream today. Thank you everyone for coming out. Thank you all for your questions. Thank you Maku and Durandal for joining me and helping me out on this venture. You're both very kind and wonderful gentlemen who helped me out a lot by doing this. This was something that I kind of wanted to try and achieve and get on Twitch as a different way of doing the Q&As. I really hope everyone enjoyed it. If you missed any of the stream, don't worry, it'll be up on YouTube later today. I'll be posting that in the forum. I'll be posting it up on social channels. I believe I'm in a Discord that I can post it in so that everyone can share it among everyone that you know, and get onto the YouTube channel and get watching. So thanks, guys. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. I'll let Maku and Durandal say their goodbyes here as well, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, thanks for watching, and up the irons.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Durandal, you're still muted, buddy.
Oh yeah, I'm muted.
Yeah.
I was gonna say thanks to everyone. Honestly, one of my favorite things is when I go on Facebook, on our Facebook group, and I see people sharing little stories about the characters they collect and the teams that they're trying them on and the experience they have. It means so much. So just, you guys just playing the game, sharing your stories, it means a lot. It keeps us motivated to pump out some great new content. So
excellent. All right, everyone. Thanks very much. Take care. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you next time.
Peace out.